Okay, hello everybody.
Hello.
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast. This is the Macabre Podcast Universe, and we exist to prove people wrong when they say.
Sequels are never better than the originals.
And I'm hoping and expecting that after last week's episode, we got probably some new listeners who are fans of Mike Hanford that maybe enjoyed the show and kind of wanted to hear some more. And I'm also hoping that people who weren't sure about this series or didn't know anything about it would potentially continue watching it.
Yeah.
Because this is wild.
The first movie, a wild ride. The second movie, it just continues on a wild ride.
It was insane. So we're talking about Ong Bak 2.
Uh-huh.
And welcome new listeners. My name's Micah McCaw.
My name's Jordan McCaw.
And we are married. We've
Yeah.
been married since 2017, and you can check the county records on that if you want.
Uh-huh.
And so I was getting ready for this movie. I was researching the movie, and I feel like I kind of stumbled upon some insanity involving this movie.
Like what?
I'm not going to tell you quite yet, but this is one of the craziest productions I've ever read about in movies, let alone this podcast.
Like horrific?
Well, I'll get to it. But
like worse than Apocalypse Now?
No,
Okay.
I think that kind of trumps anything.
Okay.
But it's wild. It's really wild.
Okay.
And there's like hearsay and rumors and unconfirmed stuff. But I
Hollywood gossip.
I found enough articles that I feel like there's at least some truth to everything that I'll be talking about.
Okay.
So, without further ado,
What did you think about this movie?
right off the bat,
We usually talk about that
I
before
know,
we get into anything else.
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly has some like pacing and story, and some of the editing's a little weird. There's some stuff that as we go along, I'll talk about.
Yeah.
But this movie's just cool.
Uh-huh.
I was astounded.
Yeah.
And much like last week, my jaw was on the floor at certain points in this movie because
Mine was most of the movie.
I've never seen like 60% of this movie. I've never seen in another movie.
Mm-mm.
Like Tony Jaa is the man.
Mm-hmm.
Is it distracting having this up?
No,
is this
it's fine.
bad?
But if it's distracting you,
No. So we're taking a playbook out of Mike's playbook. His playbook out of his play out of his playbook, and we have the movie running behind us so that we can kind of take a look and see where we're at in the movie and kind of jog our memory when we need to. I just figured the rental wasn't expired, so we may as well take advantage of it.
okay.
So what did you think of the movie?
Yeah, I loved it. It is. I gotta know what the budget is of this movie, especially compared to the last one, because it is like the production is crazy, and it just
really
seems
is.
really big, like built towns and like things. So I gotta know that.
Well, yeah. So, let me tell you the budget then.
Okay.
So the first movie, I believe it was $1.1 million.
Yeah.
This one has an $8 million
That's
budget.
it.
So it's 8 times bigger than the previous
I mean,
movie.
yeah, that's way more money than the last one. But there's like heavy makeup and like heavy costumes in heavy towns.
But not to get too ahead of myself, there's a lot of that money did not go into the movie. That $8 million.
Okay.
Because of some issues that we're going to talk about.
With the million production companies and distributing companies.
We will get to it.
Okay.
But so this movie is 8 times the budget of the previous movie.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I guess I should start getting into stuff now, huh?
Yep.
So this movie is directed by Tony Jaa and Panna Riti Krai. And Panna Riti Krai was one of the writers on Ong Bak 1.
Okay.
And then I couldn't find pronunciation guides for these, so I'm going to do my best to get through these names. So I apologize if I mispronounce any of them. It's written by Ek Lemekuen, Nanthakor. Oh, now my eyes are just not being able to see. Nanthakorn Thawisuk, Tony Jaa, and Panna Riti Cry. And the cinematography is by the same person as the last movie, Natawut Kitakun. And the music is by Turdzig Janpan. Yeah. And the movie comes out December 4th, 2008.
Okay.
And
December?
yes.
Okay.
Now, remember, I said it has an $8 million budget.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where it already starts getting interesting. Domestically in the U.S., it makes $102,000.
That's a lot.
Not a lot.
102. Oh, sorry. I heard $102 million.
$102,000.
$102,000. That's nothing.
Yeah. And so like an international release, that's not necessarily crazy if it's not a well-known thing. But the last movie, I think, made like $2 million in the U.S. or something like that. So that's quite a bit lower. And then worldwide, it makes $7.5 million.
Yikes! So they hardly break even. They did not break even.
Yeah. So now is where I'm gonna break it all down. If you're ready. Any other things to set before I jump into what this is?
I literally don't know how this movie was made, so what do I have to say about it?
I don't know. I just wanted to clear the table here. So after the success of Ong Bak and The Protector, which is another series starring Tony Jaa.
Did The Protector, I just can't remember, come out around the same time as Ong Bak?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know the exacts on that, but we will be covering it on Patreon for any listeners that want to hear us talk about the Protector movies.
2005.
2005. Okay, so Ong Bak, Protector, then this movie. And so Prechi Pinkiao is the director of the first movie and The Protector.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony and him start having a contentious relationship because Tony wants to start directing and kind of pushes him out. By all accounts, that's what's kind of going on.
Okay.
So that starts happening.
Okay.
And the studio immediately bends to his will, and they're like, yeah, you can make Ong Bak 2 Tony Jaa. And
I mean, it's not like they can just find another Tony Jaa. They don't grow on trees. Yeah. So.
And so he is given sole directorial directing on this. So he starts directing the movie.
What happens when a man gets too much power?
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the takeaway from this. We'll see, though. Maybe you will think that. But this is a quote from a website called Screen Anarchy.
Yeah.
And I did cite my sources, folks. I looked up like 3 or 4 different articles that confirm about the same information.
Yeah.
So this is pretty solid stuff I got here.
Well, one of them was a Reddit thread.
No.
And then the other one was a Facebook comments section.
These were all articles. So this is a quote that they wrote. The initial footage from this film, Ong Bak 2, looked fantastic, but it didn't take long for strange stories to emerge from the set. Stories of Jaa sacrificing chickens before shooting for the day could commence. And things rapidly fell behind schedule and way over budget.
Why was he sacrificing chickens?
This is what we don't really know.
Okay.
So there starts being these rumors about him being kind of, sacrificing chickens.
Is it like potentially being super faithful to? Not that we don't see chickens being sacrificed in this movie, but it's hundreds of years in the past.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's not like Apocalypse Now where you have a documentarian who is following.
Yeah.
So we can only kind of that's all I got for you as far as facts go.
Okay.
The rest we can kind of, glean our own opinions on. But that's the beginning of the craziness. So Tony leaves the set. He's feeling a lot of pressure. He's this guy.
Like during production?
During the production. He's this guy who has I saw one article talked about how his influence and him coming onto the scene with Ong Bak and The Protector inspired Donnie Yen to start hitting it again hard.
Oh wow!
Who was already successful, but he was like, I'm seeing what this guy's doing, and I need to up my game.
Wow. Okay.
So he's having this influence on the martial arts scene where it's like, holy cow, like martial arts are back. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And so he is feeling a lot of pressure. He's being told he's the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he leaves the set of this movie. And mind you, he's the star and the director. And he's gone for 2 months.
What?
Now, here's where it gets crazy, Jordan. I know you're looking something up,
I'm
but
just seeing
you
how
have
old
to...
he was when this movie came out. And he was 32, which, I mean, to have that much power, it's young.
Yeah. So rumors start emerging that he's involved with black magic and in Cambodia somewhere, like performing black magic.
What?
Yes. And so, like when I say, so if this was like a Marvel movie, which is always my example that I go to, and someone was like, hey, Benedict Cumberbatch disappeared, we would know where he was at. It would just be, like Benedict Cumberbatch left the set. That's what we, and we'd know he went someplace. People didn't know where Tony went.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know where the guy is.
Yeah.
So the Panna Riti Cry, who's gonna become the director who finishes this movie,
Yeah.
tracks him down, finds him, and brings him back.
Okay.
So that's almost as crazy as it gets, but it gets a little bit crazier.
Okay.
Tony Jaa then goes on TV and he starts weeping. And
like this is daytime television, like
it's
a
like
talk show.
a news
Yeah.
station. And he is like weeping and talking about how he is going to finish this movie. He's going to figure out how to finish it.
Okay.
But it was labeled as like a meltdown on television.
Oh.
And then he sends demands to the production studio, the production studio is Saha Mangkol, saying he's going to leave again if they don't agree to these 7 demands.
Wow.
So here's demand 1. He wants an extra $1.5 million to finish the last 20% of the film. That does not include the cost of the film, actor hire, studio hire, and theater run. Jaa to choose his own production crew, which would include Jaa's personal mentor, Panna Riti Cry, Jaa's personal manager to oversee the accounts for the total production, the film to be finished by November 30th, full disclosure of actor's fee and his director's fee, and Jaa would get a $1.4 million share of the profits from distribution and ticket sales. Previously, Jaa and the production studio agreed that he would get 25% share of net revenue, yada, yada, yada. And then he would get, this is a big one, he has an exclusive contract with this production company, and this would end, his 7th thing is like, you have to end my contract. Because he has a 10-year contract with the studio.
Jeez, okay.
So, this is, I feel like I'm doing crime and sports here with what I'm about to say now. So he says all that, and then a car pulls up next to him. And
when? Like during production? Like what?
Somewhere.
Okay.
I couldn't find the information.
Okay.
A car pulls up, and people grab him and drive away.
Huh? So is he kidnapped?
Leading many to say that he's kidnapped.
Okay.
Now, after he gets back, he says, no, I wasn't kidnapped. But he did go to a police station and take refuge there afterward.
What did he get involved in? Like what? Like weird, like, I don't know if it's a cult or like what did he get involved in where he was sacrificing chickens and then potentially, allegedly practicing dark art?
Yeah. Which he denies all of that.
Okay, but maybe if it wasn't something that salacious, maybe I'm not saying this, but like definitively because I don't know. But it's like, what if he like went on a bender or something?
And there's really no way to know, which is the crazy part about it.
Yeah.
But the people who quote didn't end quote kidnap him were studio heavies. They were from the studio, and they're labeled as, quote, heavies. And then when he reappears, he says that it's not true, he wasn't kidnapped. But, I mean, we know that he was taken by, like, we know he was kidnapped, basically.
Witnesses saw him being pulled into a car.
Yeah, and then after he goes to police and, like, hides there for a little bit, seeks refuge was what this article said, once he comes back. He then drops his demands for the movie.
Oh my
Isn't this
gosh.
crazy?
That's crazy.
Is that not like one of the craziest things you've ever heard?
It just makes me wonder, like, what the Thai filmmaking industry is, because I mean, this is one production company out of several. We saw that there were several production companies a part of this movie that weren't, like, there were more than one Thai ones.
Yeah,
I think. But it doesn't that just make you wonder, like, what the film industry culture is or whatever, like.
well, and how much of it is, because there was a time when, like the Italian mafia was like involved in Hollywood.
I don't know if they were kidnapping people though.
Well, but remember that story we talked about in the Godfather episode where the guy who plays the singer in the Godfather basically had a similar thing happen to get him on the Godfather.
Okay.
So, like, this stuff is not necessarily a stranger to American Hollywood system either.
Yeah.
But I couldn't believe, when I was reading it, I was like, here's what I was expecting. I was expecting to start doing the notes and basically say, yeah, Jordan, I couldn't find anything about the movie. They made the movie and it was a big hit and that's it. I did not expect to find this. And there was very little on the Wikipedia. But then I, was following the articles and then doing Google searches, which I tend to cite, like, double check stuff anyway. And that's when I really started finding stuff.
How?
But there's a little bit more. That's the craziness.
Yeah.
But this is a interesting explanation to the ending of this movie. So by all accounts, Ong Bak 2 was supposed to be Ong Bak 2 and 3. It was supposed to be one movie.
Oh, okay.
But all of this craziness that's happening,
and they couldn't finish it.
The studio's hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
And that's why this budget is ballooning so much.
Yeah.
So they say, okay, here's what we're going to do. Finish the movie right now, and then we'll make another movie. So that's why they split it into Ong Bak 2 and 3.
Okay.
It was just going to be Ong Bak 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I mean, 1 and 2. And so then they bring in Pana Ritikrai to finish directing, and the studio brings in their new martial arts star, Dan Chupong, and that guy is the guy who attacks him on the elephant as the ghost crow.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So they bring him in, and all of this just causes the movie to do pretty bad.
Okay.
And I know, like, I saw that, like, U.S. and European distributors, at least at the beginning while the production was happening, were like, I don't know if we want to be, like, putting bids out on this movie because we don't know if it's going to
because yeah.
And let alone, I think well, no, I won't get into that because I don't know the information for sure. So, anyway, and the studio did not take legal action against Ja. And that's the notes for Ong Bak 2.
I don't even know how to process that.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. It's a miracle that this movie got made.
It's not only a miracle, but I never would have. You know how
the movie's good, like,
right? Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
I agree with you. Like, there's some story stuff that's kind of like I don't really understand what's going on, how we got here, kind of things. Kind of like the first movie, but it's also like what we talked about in the last episode, where action heavy movies like this, like martial heavy movies, for me, I don't really need the story to be that insane. I just need the action to be insane, and it was. So it's very forgivable for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think it's any surprise or any secret that martial arts movies, especially ones that are run by, like, martial artists, don't necessarily have the most coherent plots.
Yeah.
I mean, we've watched quite a few, and like 3 or 4 of them have been like, oh, that's like a really solid written story.
I would say the Ip Man series from beginning to end is probably the most cohesive. And probably, I think, is what's helping that one is it's historical. Yeah. So maybe it's just familiar things to latch on to for me.
But remember, even that one, like Ip Man 4 was terrible.
What happened in that one?
That was the one where he goes to America and starts training Bruce Lee. And, like, Scott Adkinson is in it. And it's, they have, like...
Yeah.
It's that one, I remember we were having trouble finishing.
Yeah, but
that
I don't
movie.
necessarily remember being like, how'd they get from here to here?
That's true.
Where
I
like
see what
in
you're
this
saying.
movie,
Yeah.
it's like don't really understand what that was about, but that's fine
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
I mean, I'll say this about Ong Bak too. I think Ong Bak 1 has the originality and the excitement of a new fighting style and this new star. I think this is a better movie. I think I would
Yeah.
rewatch this movie more often than that one.
Yeah, I like the lore.
I really thought the
So-
fantasy stuff was fun.
Yeah, it was cool.
And
But the first movie, what it has that this movie I don't think could have done is that street chase.
right.
That was just I've never seen something like that before.
Yeah.
But I mean, this movie, there's a guy running across elephants, and I'm pretty sure that happened.
Yeah.
That wasn't CG in any way, and I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
A fight scene with an elephant where there were some parts that were like, wow, that elephant was actually there. I don't understand that.
Well, when I saw the cut, so here's the other thing before we jump into actors is I thought the crazy thing we were going to talk about before the production of this movie was the movie, like the poster I saw
Yeah.
has an elephant on it and Tony Jaa. And I was like, what is
He's
this?
doing it right now.
He's running on the elephants. Oh my gosh. This was so insane because he's like pushing the elephant and I was going, what in the world is he doing? I couldn't even figure it out. And then he goes into a herd of elephants and he starts running. That's insane.
But also, it's like, is it really a herd of elephants? I just don't understand how that's possible to do this. And then this just made me think of another question that I don't know the answer to, but
Oh my gosh. He jumps from that big one to the little one.
it just makes me wonder, like, what how much care or thought is taken into account for animal stuff
Oh, yeah.
in a movie that's not American? Because I'm American. I know that, especially at this point in history, it's very safe. So safe to the point where we don't even usually put real animals and stuff anymore. You know?
Yeah. Well,
But-
yeah.
But I know this movie is 2008, a long time ago. But it does make me just wonder, like, how were the elephants? Like, how'd you get a herd of elephants? Just how? For an $8 million budget?
If we remember, we should skip to the end at the end of our episode that we're doing and look at the credits and see if it has a no animals were harmed. Because I doubt this movie has that.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
But
There was nothing that I saw, though, that made me think, like, that is harming the animal at all. But it does make me think, like, which I think that this is more of a nuanced thing that we're more careful about today of, like, but what stress is the animal being put under?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not being physically hurt, but what about the years you're taking off of its life?
Right.
Kind of thing. But, I mean, he just jumped onto an elephant
It's
in the front.
crazy. And then he smacks it on the head and tames it. That's crazy.
It's I've never seen that before in a movie.
But so before we got distracted by the elephant scene, which is great. Now we don't have to talk about it later. My expectation was the crazy part was going to be just the premise of this movie.
Yeah.
So I looked up the movie before we watched it last night, and I see that it says like in the year 1400 or 1500 or something like that, and I go, what?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what?
The sequel's a prequel? Ong Bak 2 is...
But, if you're making a prequel, I was thinking, it'd be like, he had this other adventure before
of
he
course.
went to a
this is
Thailand, whatever.
Not even connected. If anything, like Ong Bak wasn't even in this. Like there was a statue at the very end, though. But at the very end, obviously, if they had made two movies into one, if they had not had a hellish production, there would have been an Ong Bak in this movie. But there basically wasn't.
Right.
And I'm not really faulting it for that.
So before we go any further, for the listener, if you have not watched this movie, I implore you to watch it. Go to YouTube, rent it for $4 or $3 or whatever.
Don't watch it on Hoopla. They put widescreen bars, and it was unwatchable.
It truly was. We started it, and
we tried.
I couldn't like see the screen. It was so weird. White screen bars are bad.
Very weird.
And they've never done that on any other movie we've watched.
It must just be the whatever they have,
Yeah.
I have a question before jumping into actors because I got an ad for it on IMDb.
Okay.
Are they really making a limited series?
On Billy the Kid?
Billy the Kid.
Oh, never
they
mind.
Are?
Go ahead.
Wait, who's playing Billy?
I don't know. It's on IMDb. I've been seeing ads for Billy the Kid on like Epics, and
Yeah.
it's just the poster alone. I'm like, this is a trash show. It's so bad. I can tell.
No. Are they really making a limited series about Francis Ford Coppola making The Godfather, starring Miles Teller?
Yeah, you actually.
I've brought this up.
Yeah, it is. You have brought it
I
up.
brought it up on the podcast.
You haven't brought it up on the
Oh,
podcast.
phew. But is he really playing Coppola?
I don't know if he's playing Coppola.
Sorry, we got to
I think
derail.
he's playing someone else.
I gotta know.
But I'm
who
not
he's
sure.
Playing. He is playing Albert S. Reddy.
Okay, probably
Oscar-winning
a producer.
Albert S. Reddy's never before revealed experience of making The Godfather. So he's playing the producer.
Yeah.
Oh, the guy who plays Kowalski is playing Coppola.
John
Fogler.
Fogler.
That works for me.
Yeah.
Will I watch the movie or the show? No. But I was just like, if Miles Teller was casted as that,
that's
he's
bad
not
casting.
no longer just on notice. He's out. And I don't even want to see the series to even know for sure.
Who did you add to On Notice, or did we talk about that on
I
mic?
just said recently that Miles Teller has been on notice for a long time for me.
Yeah, he's on notice for me too. It's
Yeah.
all up to Top Gun Maverick, which by now we'll have seen 2 months ago. But
Yeah.
if he's great in that, he'll be back on top for me.
I feel like that's who we were talking about. There might have been someone else. Well, you said that the Joker guy.
Oh, Barry Keoghan.
He's on notice for
me.
you.
Because Eternals was bad. He wasn't bad in it, but the movie was so bad it's hard to think anyone was good in that. And then when I saw the Joker deleted scene, it's not that it's a bad scene. I don't know.
I wouldn't put anyone on notice for being in the Eternals. That's not their fault that was a bad movie. That was a bad script.
It's the Joker thing he's on notice for.
Okay.
And when I rewatched The Batman in theaters, I thought that the Joker scene was even worse than the first time I saw it. Like, his laugh is potentially the worst of the Joker laughs, potentially. But he hasn't really had a full moment to do it.
Give the kid a chance.
Yeah, I do need to give him a chance. I just don't want to see
me.
that ugly makeup for an entire movie.
I know.
It's
me neither.
really gross.
Yeah. I'm really nervous about a sequel. And I was really nervous about the Batman.
Yeah.
I liked it. But
I have faith in the sequel. And they greenlit it recently, actually. But I really think and hope that Matt Reeves is not going to make the next movie the Joker is the main bad guy.
Yeah.
We got to get some new blood in Batman. We have to do someone we haven't seen yet. Mm-hmm. Please, I'm begging you.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the Batman rules. Great movie.
Okay. So, actors. So Sarapong Chattree plays Chernung, the head guy of the clan, or the guy with the curly mustache.
Oh yeah.
He passed away in March of this year.
Oh,
sad. But he is also in the Tsunami Warrior, Beautiful Boxer. He's also in the next movie. Our Pet. So he is in Thai, exclusively Thai things. So a lot more Thai movies as well. And then Primrata Dejudam plays Pim, the older Pim, which is the girl.
Okay.
She is in The Gig, Sapai Jiao, the Cupid series, and that's about it. And then fun that Pet Chatai Wong Kam Lao, who plays George in the last movie, has a little cameo in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Didn't really understand the cameo, but it was fun.
Yeah, that's a funny scene that we will talk about, of course.
Yeah. Oh, the person who plays young Tony Jaa.
Yeah.
Not to deny Kong Thong. This is the only movie he's in, and I thought he was great. So that's surprising.
He was really good. Yeah.
And then I want to find who plays the young Pim. Prarinya Karmkyu plays the young Pim, and this is the only movie she's in as well. I thought she was cute and good.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy I think plays the white-haired guy. Raja Sena Lord. Or it might play the big bad guy.
Okay.
I'm not sure because there's no picture.
Oh, yeah. No picture. That's crazy.
I think a lot of these people, this is like, well, no, this person's in other stuff. But this actor's name is Sarunyu Wongkra Kid Ching. They are also in The Passage, or no, The Passion, Con, Tootsie's The Fake, The Stranded. I'm surprised this person doesn't have a picture. They were in like a ton of things. Anyway.
Okay.
That's about it.
So there's your cast of characters. And so the movie begins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, very weird. We talked about our hoopla experience, but then after that, the credits roll on the movie at the beginning as the production credits. And it's like it's showing footage of the movie, and then the production like logos are on top of the movie, which was so weird to me. It looked
What do you mean on top of the
very
movie?
bad. Like instead of, you show like it says Universal, and then the movie starts and it says Universal Pictures Presents. It's like they slapped the Universal logo in the middle of the screen, just cropped really small.
Yeah.
But it was crazy because this movie is produced by Six Shooter, Magnet, some teardrop-shaped company, Government Housing Banking, the King of Duty Free.
Yeah. What?
7, Kodak, Happy, and Nonviolent. Those are all the production companies.
Nonviolent, do you think that's like an ironic production company name? And they do martial arts
man,
movies?
I hope so.
Yeah.
But then the movie begins.
Mm-hmm.
And we see this man riding on a horse very fast.
With a child.
And then there's these CG arrows that are flying by him. And I was kind of like, uh-oh. Because, sometimes like movies with an $8 million budget are not usually known for having great special effects.
Yeah.
Particularly in the year 2008.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking...
But now, knowing that this only had an $8 million budget...
Insane.
And some of even the CGI blood was no worse than 300 or Ninja Assassin.
Right. Yeah.
So, awesome.
Yeah. Well, but what I was going to say is like, I'm a little worried because the last movie, the whole thing is like, there's no CGI in this and there's no wires. Like this is all real. And so I'm going, uh-oh, is this a classic situation where they're like, okay, now you can do whatever you want. And they go, we know that other movies that are huge do this. So let's do all of those things.
Right.
And then they don't do them as good. So the beginning, I was kind of nervous.
Okay.
But we see this man running is on a horse. He drops off the boy.
He just throws him, kicks him to the curb.
Yeah.
Rides over this hill, and there is an army awaiting him, and he has shot and killed whoever this person is. And then the child is picked up by people we don't really know who they are, but they have a cage of people, so they're not great.
Right,
and they throw him in the cage. And they take him to some town, and they're gonna. I think they're like auctioning off slaves.
Yeah. Well, we see them later do that.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And the kid immediately starts fighting. The kid doesn't know martial arts or anything, but it's just in defense mode. Not gonna let anything happen to him. And he is then just this crazy, I can't remember exactly how they say it, but it's like, oh, you're gonna be punished hard now. And they like
that's not how they say it.
No,
I know.
They take him to like this area and they just dump so much blood on him.
Yeah,
like,
which
Carrie couldn't even imagine how much blood was on this kid.
Well, and that right there, I was like, okay, I'm back on board. Like, what is this?
I thought the movie looked good.
Oh yeah, the movie looks great.
Yeah.
They
part of it though really feels like, I don't know if this is like necessarily just a director thing or it's partly cinematographer or whatever this is. It almost feels like someone discovered slow motion for this movie.
Yeah.
Because there is so much slow motion.
Well, I mean, they got to capture that action, baby.
Yeah.
I was noticing that most of the movie is even when there's not action going on, is filmed at a higher frame rate a little bit.
Yeah.
Which was just kind of an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Not necessarily bad. The only reason we decide upon 24 for the most part is because of like an arbitrary thing to help projectionists remember what to do back in the early 1900s or whatever. Maybe not that early, but anyway. So this is chugging along, and then he gets put into this muddy water,
like a pit.
And I said to Jordan, I'm like, oh, please be an alligator, please, because I'm thinking Thailand. That's what I said, but it was a crocodile.
Okay.
But I'm thinking Thailand, like they got those creatures over there.
Yeah.
And then this scene too, genuinely shot in a very scary way.
I agree. It was great.
The tension was incredible. So there's all these people around this water, and you can't see in the water at all.
Yeah.
And then this gate opens. Thinking about it freaks me out a little bit. And you just see like ripples of water heading toward this boy.
Mm-hmm.
And then this thing jumps out of the water. And folks, I don't know how much is animatronic, how much is what, but there is a real crocodile on set for sure.
Yeah.
Because nothing in the scene was CGI.
Yeah.
And when I had seen the cover of this movie, I was like, okay, there might be a lot of animals. They're probably all going to be CGI. And it's going to be them just going way too hard.
Yeah.
Not the case.
No.
And so this crocodile jumps up at this boy.
Several times.
And he's wrestling it.
Uh-huh. And it's doing the whole rolling over thing in the water.
Yeah. I mean, that right there, I was like, if the rest of the movie sucks, I haven't seen that before.
And we haven't even seen him run across elephants yet.
I know. And Jordan, this movie is not folks, if you want to be cool, I'm telling you, watch this movie because this is not a very well-known movie in the U.S., I don't think.
Uh-huh.
I mean, Ong Bak is on the little bit of the fringes, but Ong Bak 2, not so.
Yeah.
So get on it.
Yeah.
Don't make this the one series on our podcast that you go, I'm not really interested in listening and watching along.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is crazy.
It's cuckoo crazy. So as this is all going on, Chernung, he like stands up. First of all, though, in the scene, it keeps cutting to him spitting, and it's so gross. And it's like spitting in slow motion, which is just kind of like, so I'm supposed to hate this person, right?
Right.
He stands up and is like, you take your life into your own hands or something, and like throws a knife into the pit, and the kid goes diving
to dive
for it.
into the water, get the knife, and then start attacking
and then
this crocodile.
He does best the crocodile, and while that's happening, there's like an ambush. Fighting starts happening.
Yeah, so like, what's his name again?
Chernung.
That's a cool name. It's like his crew of people are there, and they were gonna ambush this place, and then he sees the promise of this boy. So they start their ambush, and he also gives him a chance to join his crew.
Uh-huh.
So already I'm like, cool. This is a good story. I'm in for this.
Oh, yeah. And this scene is so crazy that I have never seen this weapon before that wasn't in a Marvel movie and was CGI'd and was magical. A dude just has the rings.
That's like 10 rings thing.
The Shang-Chi rings, but they're
like
real
connected
and they're on
by
chains. And it looked like it hurt.
And yeah, he flings them like they do in that movie.
Yeah.
So that's a real weapon.
Effing cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So already I'm like, Tony Jaa hasn't even shown up yet.
I know.
And I'm pretty on board with this movie.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm just kind of loving how unapologetically it is not trying to be a sequel to Ong Bak.
This is a touch, too, that they nailed that is usually not nailed. And I'm now hearing the budget and just more impressed on the attention to detail.
Yeah.
Is the teeth. We're all just so gross in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a thing that I think a lot of people complain about in things set in these time periods or like fantasy worlds even or something like that. Where it's
someone smiles and they're just pearly whites.
Yeah. And so, but like everyone doesn't look good.
Yeah. So then after that, he meets with this guy, and I couldn't figure it out, but he had I think he had prosthetics over his eyes
Oh, really?
because his eyes didn't blink the whole time, and they were like a pure white in front
Oh, I
of
thought
his
he was
eyes.
just wearing contacts.
No, but it almost looked like there was like plastic around his eyes.
Oh, okay.
And he's like this mystic guy from the village that
Chernung.
Chernung is from. And so basically they're like, wow, this guy's cool. And he goes, hey, you can train here or you can leave.
Yeah.
And he decides to train there.
Yeah.
So then he's training, and then it cuts to him as an old man now. Old man, a man.
As Tony Jaa.
Yeah. And that's when he jumps on the elephants, which we talked about. And again, that sequence was even crazier than the crocodile.
I like that it's several different types of martial arts. So we do see it actualized in like his test where he has to fight someone with a sword, which is bonkers. And then he has to fight someone with just martial arts.
Yeah.
Bonkers. And then he fights another person with just martial arts, but it's also like it just feels different than the other one. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Meanwhile, it keeps cutting to this other guy who's like teaching him magic. And
wait, when
they're doing all the training.
Yeah, but I truly could not understand what was going on with that because this is how it was. The guy
it was presented very strangely.
Yeah, it did not make sense. But like, I think he was teaching him the art of illusion and distraction. But
which does have a payoff in the movie.
It does. It does.
So I feel good about it now. But please.
But like the guy like has a little tiny string that's on fire that you're watching the fire. And then he like pulls his hand away really quickly, and with the other hand he has a bird in it. And it's like, yeah, you just had the bird in the other hand.
right.
I'm not
I can do that.
I don't get it. Other than it, like, I don't think it was ever supposed to be magic.
Yeah.
I think it was obvious that it was supposed to be just an illusion.
Either way, it was weird.
Yeah. But then it feels like also part of his test was going into a cave and fighting like a cat woman.
Before we do that, though,
he
has to like finally fight all of the guys, and he has to fight 3 men to like be trained. And so he fights this one guy who has a ponytail, and he whips it around his head, and it wraps around his neck.
Yeah.
Then he fights a guy that's like tattoo faced, and he looks crazy. And actually, that might be all of them. But I thought there was a third
two.
one. Oh, you did?
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I was thinking there was some in the training montage, but
no, I'm talking about the test.
Okay, my bad.
And then you had to bring it back to the training montage.
So let's talk about Lion Woman.
So, I guess he had to go in and fight a lion woman and kill her.
Yes.
So this part of the movie I was a little just unclear of, and I think it's just like the world I don't quite understand.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if the movie's at fault because they didn't explain it, because it's like maybe they didn't need to explain it. But she's like a cat. A woman. Cat.
Well, she's like a lion because she's making lion sounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it starts with him walking in the cave and he's hearing like, help me, help me.
Yeah, and then they start fighting, and it's crazy, ruthless fighting, and then he like slits her throat and she dies. And Chernung is watching, and he says something like, man doesn't truly know mercy until he takes a life. Something that is like a profound statement that was a little weird.
Yeah.
Because usually when you're like with the protagonist, death should never be an option.
Yeah,
that's just what I'm conditioned through Marvel movies and stuff.
But with this one, I thought it was cool that there wasn't a point where it was like, hey, you need to remember like mercy.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool that, like, I thought that made this movie kind of unique, that it doesn't feel like he is fueled by vengeance at certain points, but it is like it's a different world and this is how you have to do it. And this is the beauty of martial arts. Sometimes you kill. It felt like the movie was just kind of unapologetically like doing its thing.
Yeah.
So if you're upset by that, then the movie's like, we don't really care.
Yeah.
If you don't like that, we're still going.
Right.
But sometimes when you watch a movie, you're kind of like, man, it sure would just be easier if they just killed that guy, or like this character isn't necessarily like totally moral. They can just kill this guy. It's fine.
Yeah.
And this movie's like, yeah, he has to kill.
Yeah, I know.
We don't have to figure out ways for like the bad guys to accidentally die so that you don't feel bad as a viewer. He'll just kill him.
Yeah.
So I liked that element a lot. I almost think that like when he beats someone or maybe with the lion woman, I just thought like this is kind of bordering on fantasy in a way that I really like. So I just kind of imagine that when he killed her, it was like he then was able to take like the lion power. Because after that in the movie, he's then able to scratch people with his claws.
Oh, interesting.
So that was kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, when he's attacked by this like ghost crow thing, I was just like,
which he doesn't beat.
He doesn't beat, no.
Yeah.
I just thought like I think there's some like cool animal spirits thing happening that I don't fully understand.
Don't fully understand, but I'm here for it.
Yeah. It almost feels like those characters are supposed to represent like those real animals. Like they're actually the real animals, but I don't know. But either way, freaking cool.
So he completes his training and he is dubbed like the leader of their raiding missions.
Yeah.
Because they are like criminals or outlaws.
Yeah.
They're outlaws. They even say that. So then it does a hard cut to them doing a raiding mission. And this is part of the story part where I am a little lost on like what they're doing. I mean, I know that they're outlaws, but it is like, who are these people that they're raiding? What's the statue that they're taking?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming it's like the people who end up, he faces off with.
Yeah.
Like that clan or government. But it still was a little unclear for me.
Oh, yeah. I had no idea who he was ambushing.
Yeah. But cool scene with the rafts and stuff.
Yeah. And the way they like disassemble them and trap them was very cool.
Yeah. And even for a scene that was so dark because it was at night, it was pretty easy to track.
Yeah. Well, they lit the scene instead of
just fighting the shadows.
Desaturating everything and whatnot. So then then we flash back and we have this long sequence where he's a child. And we see that his dad is a lord of some sort. And because there's this dispute or a fight or something, like he has to be in the capital or something like that.
The government's kind of crumbling.
Yeah. And so, hey, remember we talked about prequels and how they have to be about government stuff. The first movie didn't have any government stuff, and this movie does. And it's a prequel.
Oh, because of Star Wars.
And Secrets of Dumbledore.
Yeah.
But this one is in a good way.
Well, it's also not about the government crumbling.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's happening, and he drops his son off at a dance school.
Oh, it's a dance school?
Yeah, because he complains how, like, he's going to learn dance, but he wants to be a martial artist.
Okay.
And while he's there, he meets this girl.
Him.
And
who's an orphan, and they become friends.
Yeah, and there's definitely a little something there.
Oh, I didn't get that as kid stuff.
Well, they're like it's cute kid stuff.
Okay.
And then they steal a bell from a man.
George from the first movie.
Now, this scene didn't make any sense to me when they stole the bell.
Other than it just maybe illustrating kids being mischievous together and having fun.
Well, it is. I mean, that's probably one of the reshoots because they were probably like, how do we know this is the girl from the beginning? And she's not even in that scene where he steals the bell.
She is, but she's not orchestrating the bell thing.
But I mean, the actual like shots of the two of them, she's not in.
Yeah, right.
So it really feels like they were like, we need to figure out a way that he knows that the dancer is her at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And so they shot the scene that the girl's not in that doesn't really make any sense where they stole the bell from this lunatic, I guess, like the town crazy.
Yeah. So,
that part didn't work for me. But,
no.
And when it happened, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. You can go.
It was just a classic. When it happened, I was like, oh, okay, that bell's coming back so that he knows who the girl is later in the movie.
Yeah. But to continue on with the past stuff, because I think we do a little bit of jumping around at this point. So his parents are trying to come back for him. No, what is it? That he is going to be taken away because things are not going well in the capital, so he needs to be protected or reunited with his parents. So this guy is taking him away, and then this other guy catches up with him, and pretty much you find out this guy who's taking Tien away is going to betray the kid. So this other guy comes to save the kid, and that's from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
The horse that he's on is with the guy that saved him. And then when the kid does get thrown off the horse, he doesn't just immediately get picked up by those dudes that we talked about at the beginning of the movie. He like goes back to where his parents are.
Right.
To try and find them. And the dad is like having a duel with someone in this creek, and his dad gets killed.
Yeah.
And then the mom gets killed, and he witnesses it.
Right. And then we're caught up on kid stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then we have the slave trade scene.
Uh-huh.
Which I believe we've caught up to the movie here.
This is about to be done, but yeah.
Okay. So is this when he says, like, is this when the guy says that you...
No, it's after this.
Okay, it is.
So this scene, it's like we're back with those bad guys from the beginning of the movie, and there are slaves in cages again. Children are separated from adults, and this woman's going to be sold, and you're like, okay, this is the same area from the beginning with the kid, because we also recognize that guy that it's kind of hard to describe. It's a guy that was mean to the kid, but years have passed and now he looks different, but he's still a bad dude. And he's going to sell this woman, and then someone like throws a pot at him,
right, yes,
and he's like running through the crowd like, was it you, and then he starts fighting this random person. And then one of the grossest things I've ever seen, so it's Tien, and he's like acting like a drunk person,
right,
but he punches through a pot of water. And I thought that he was like stabbing the guy with shards of the pot, but no, he was holding on to the man's Adam's apple and like jamming it up and down his throat. It was so gross to look at.
Yeah, he's like...
And then he, with his fingers alone, goes to the lion thing, powers, you said. He puts his fingers in the corner of his mouth and jokers the guy.
Yeah.
He gives him a scar.
Same year as Joker.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
Dark
gross.
Knight. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like the crew shows up and everyone starts fighting. Well, no, like all of the bad guys start fighting Tien, and he starts just going ham on some people. And it's crazy.
He at one point gets thrown to the ground, and he exclusively is fighting with his legs and feet for a long time. The way they do it, I'm telling you folks, it looks like that is not only the only option, but the smartest option. Because sometimes stuff like that just looks silly. And it looks legitimately like, well, yeah, you had to fight that way, of course.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool.
And that's like the first... No, we've had a couple scenes with Tony so far. So there's all of that.
So they carry out this raid, and it's successful. They free the slaves from the cages and stuff. And then it's when he's back with Chernung, and Chernung is pretty much like, I think he knows that this raid that Tien did was almost like unsanctioned or something, and Chernung learned like, oh, you have unfinished business.
Yeah.
And basically, I feel like he was even saying like, we're all about revenge here, so you can't be working for everyone else until you finish what's yours. And then he said like the nicest thing where he was like, and you can go finish what you need to finish, and we'll be waiting for you. Instead of like, you need to make a choice right now.
I know. and this is when I wrote, he needs to go get revenge before he becomes outlaw king. The guy says, we're going to make you outlaw king.
Which I guess if they are truly outlaws, all of this character-wise makes so much sense.
Yeah. This movie rules. This movie's good. It should have made more than $7 million at the box office.
Yeah.
But here is so to criticize the movie a little bit. There's a few funny details that look like the filmmakers don't necessarily know what they're doing. And it feels like they're kind of doing a like, oh, we can do that that movie thing that movies do. So one being like CGI arrows, a CGI moon, like the flaming fire. Like some of it's like, hey, we can make a huge fire thing over here and we'll just CG it in post.
Yeah.
And some of that feels a little like slow your roll a little bit.
Yeah.
And then a big one I thought the sound design in this movie was not great.
Yeah.
It was fine.
Yeah.
But it did feel like someone who maybe grew up watching like American movies or something like that and was like, oh, we can access their same sound library. Let's just do it exactly how they would do it.
Right.
And there was a few times where it didn't even match up with some of the hits totally properly.
Yeah.
So, I think sound design is pretty important with any action. I mean, any movie sound is really important, more important than people realize. But I think with action, it can be especially exciting.
I just cut that guy's wrist artery.
Crazy. But
Crazy.
Anyway,
but yeah,
that's kind of like if I had to critique something about the movie, I think those things could be improved.
Yeah. I mean, the sound design was probably the least of their worries at that point when they could not find the director.
Well, and
for a couple months.
You know what? Now that I'm, sound is one of the last things you do. So they probably were like, we have to get this movie out.
Yeah.
So they are like, instead of let's have a bunch of different punch sounds, let's just use like 10 and just reuse them over and over and over in the movie.
I think that's what happened.
It'll be really interesting to see what Ong Bak 3 is like.
I know.
So then we cut to this other kind of temple area.
So this, I think, is like the government. This is like the capital, is what I'm thinking. This is also something that's just a little unclear.
Yeah.
I loved the set design. I love actually all the set designs, I think, look great. And I'm perplexed that this movie was this cheap. But this...
And it would have been cheaper if it didn't get off track. That's the crazy part.
Yeah. So there's like, it's like a ceremony. And we have like let's just call him the big bad guy who's responsible for the death of Tien's parents.
Yeah. He's like the commanding officer at the time. He doesn't strike the blow, but he's at the scene.
Yeah. And so there is this, I'm assuming that there is a name for it, but I don't know what it is. But there is like a dance performed.
Yeah.
That is very traditional, Thai traditional, that is really long. And I liked it, the whole thing. It was just very nice. I'm glad that they took the time. I feel like there were a couple things in this movie that are like, oh, I think if like this movie is only a minute this movie was only an hour and 37 minutes. That's a short movie. And there were still things that were like, oh, I would have cut that.
Yep. Yeah.
But it's also like they probably got to the point where they were like, we can't cut it. It's so short.
That's what I wonder is like, when we watch Ong Bak 3, are we going to be like, oh, if only they cut like a half hour from that movie and cut an hour from this one and it was just 2 hours?
I think so.
Or is it really going to work? Because I don't know. I mean, this series is already much more fascinating than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be like, that was fun. We watched 3 crazy movies.
I know.
But it's crazy beyond that.
So the main dancer is Pim, and we know that because she's wearing the bracelet with the bells on it.
And it just keeps, the bells are jingling so much, and it keeps on like showing the sleigh bells.
Yeah.
I'm like, we get it.
But they do their dance, and it's very beautiful. And then this other person does a solo dance, and it also feels traditional. It's like animal based. They're wearing like a falcon mask or an owl mask. I'm not sure, or probably whatever that.
It's probably a crow
thing. And that's just so cool. It's Tony, of course, but and then seamlessly the mask will change into an alligator or a crocodile mask. You don't quite see when it happens because the choreography is so cool. And that dance was really long. And I also liked the whole thing.
I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And then he uses his moment of illusion, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And he, it's not magic, it's an illusion. And he throws down these like grenades, these little explosive, grenade things. And then he starts attacking.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets the guy, or we think he does.
Mm-hmm.
And then he heads back to his village. Unless you had anything else to talk about.
He takes the guy to his village? He doesn't take the guy to... Oh.
No, then he goes back to the village.
Did you say that he sliced him up?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he puts a couple licks on that guy. I thought he was just gonna straight up like that was it. He was dead. What is the rest of the movie about?
Yeah.
Because he slices into his back several times, and I think he even gets his throat a little bit.
When
And he
I was
kills several of
thinking
his men.
about the conversation we had last week with Mike, where we kind of talked about how in action movies, a lot of time the last action sequence is not the most exciting, and you're kind of twiddling your thumb. So I thought, well, this is pretty interesting. He just got the bad guy like right away.
He got his.
Yeah, but then he comes back to the village and it's abandoned.
Yep.
And so you go, oh, okay, that wasn't the last fight. And then is that when
He fights just a ton of people.
on this like scaffolding stuff?
But they do the choreography well to where everyone is spread out throughout the small village.
Yeah.
So it's not like there are 10 people surrounding him waiting to get in.
There was one moment that did do that, but they cut around it well.
Yeah. And so he like goes to one area, fights a person, and then another person jumps on him and he has to fight them. Meanwhile, this dude that looks like he's from Monty Python is like waiting to fight him the whole time, and he looks really devious.
Yeah.
And duplicitous. But yeah, the fight here, all the fighting here was crazy.
Yeah. And so he eventually gets on this like scaffolding type thing.
Mm-hmm. But you love to see scaffolding in a martial arts movie. What'd I say in the last one?
You said that. And he's fighting two guys, and they do an incredible job on this where it really feels like the action is balanced between the two fighters to where it never feels like the other person is just waiting to jump in.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. But then eventually the Monty Python knight says, I'll bite your legs off. And then he
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
He like pushes him down all the scaffolding.
And is this when the elephant comes in?
Not yet.
Okay.
My dear. He pushes him down. Then the guys circle around him and they're fighting some more. And he's like hurt now. He puts like sand on his wound to stop the bleeding, to cauterize it, as they say.
I don't think that's what cauterizing means.
I think it is.
I thought that's when you like put something hot on something to stop it from bleeding.
I think it's any way to stop the bleeding is to cauterize something.
I'm just going to do a quick Google.
Okay, fine. Let's hope it's not tomorrow's Wordle, because that would be too many letters for one.
Burn the skin or flesh. Did you hear that first word that's pretty important?
Oh!
Burn the skin or the flesh of a wound with a heated instrument or caustic substance, typically to stop bleeding to prevent the wound from becoming infected.
What's a caustic substance, though? It said, or a caustic substance. So maybe like...
Caustic, able to burn, or corrode organic tissue by chemical action. Or sarcastic in a scathing and bitter way, for the more...
Okay, what's that word bitter mean? Dang, I didn't know that.
Micah's got egg on his face.
Yeah, I wish I'd just scrambled it instead, because I'm hungry for eggs.
Well, it's on your face. You can do that if you wish.
No, it's too dirty. Got a dirty face. All right. So the guys circle him, and then an elephant walks into the battlefield. And I mean, I have to imagine at certain points there was, I don't know, it looked like it was a real elephant the whole fight. And he's like fighting guys and like making them bump into the elephant.
Yeah.
He's swinging off the tusks of the elephant.
Yeah.
He is running underneath the elephant.
And then a fight takes place on the elephant.
That's when it gets wild.
That's when I don't think it can be a real elephant. There's also, you can hardly see it during that fight.
But there are some shots where you can.
Yeah.
So they probably had like one that was built that they could fight on, but then they're like, okay, we'll do select shots on the real elephant.
Yeah.
And a like crow raven thing jumps onto the back of the elephant and they fight.
Yeah.
We've not seen this character. Now, I think typically I might think to myself, this should be explained better. Who is this? What is this? I was just, when I saw it, I was like, I don't know what that is, but it's cool. And for some reason, it makes the lore of this movie even cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about Lion Woman earlier. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, okay, there's just weird animal witch people that fight.
Yeah.
In addition to this. And I hope that in the next movie, there's like at least one more of those.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the murder crow guy will show up again.
Yeah. He kind of just goes away.
Yeah, he fights, but he bests him.
Yeah. Tony does, or
No,
the crow.
Yeah, and then we have like so back to what we talked about last week. This movie ends on a high note as far as action because we're at the end, and I even said this last time. They save their emotional climax for this final scene.
So he's like fighting all these people and is getting really hurt, and then eventually is just surrounded by all these people, like an army. And it's like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah, because I'm like, I didn't know that the other movie was connected. Like, at this point, I'm thinking maybe each Ong Bak is just a random point in history or something.
Yeah.
But, so they save the emotional core so that this feels like the actual climax.
Uh-huh.
So then the guy that he thought he killed at the dance shows up.
Yep.
And he pulls back basically like, I had armor on, you idiot. Like, I'm fine.
Oh, I thought that meant now he's wearing armor.
Oh, I thought he meant at the time.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But we're about to see that scene where they fight, so you got to tell me how much blood is spilled.
Okay. I don't think we'll get to it, but yeah.
And then the guy goes, basically like, let's see who really killed your father. And the Black Knight from earlier in the movie who killed his father comes out, and we see that it is
Chernung,
the guy who's been mentoring him and training him this whole time. And Chernung basically goes, I didn't know that you were a traitor, being that he was with his father and like that political side of things.
Right.
And he's like, if I'd have known, I would have killed you.
Right.
And I was like shocked by this twist. I thought this was an incredibly good twist.
I agree. I love it. This is where I kind of wish they had done a little bit of a better job on the whole what's going on with this war, because like they start fighting.
Yeah.
And the Chernung is telling him like, your people should have been wiped out. Like, you're the last one. I'm gonna make you go extinct. Like, you're disgusting people and stuff like this. And it's like, I don't quite understand why.
Yeah.
Other than throughout history, people have only been trying to eradicate other people. I get that. But do you know what I mean? Like, I wish it had been a little bit more clear of that stuff.
I totally get what you mean. I did not feel that way.
Well,
but I think
shut up.
I think that's a valid criticism, but I was just like, broad strokes, I'm good.
Sure.
And then they're fighting, and Chernung throws his sword at him, like he's holding onto it. They meet swords, and Chernung's sword, Tian's sword is like embedded within Chernung's sword. And I'm like, this movie's just hitting everything.
And then like Chernung is basically like, let me die.
Well, no.
Oh, you have the quote?
He says, let me repay your father's life with mine, son. And then he pushes his sword so it breaks, and then it slits his throat.
Wild.
I thought that was like amazing.
Yeah.
That was emotional. And
it almost felt like
it was so good.
It almost felt like he finds out that who Tien is, and he is like, oh, it's the people that I'm against. My reaction is I need to take care, like, I'm against this person, so I need to like kill them. But a deeper part of him is like, but now I have an opportunity to repay a debt.
Yeah. I actually thought that once he said that thing to him, because, you know, he was his father, basically.
Uh-huh.
When he said that to him, I thought, oh, he was saying all that stuff about his people for show.
Yeah, right.
Just so that he could get to this moment so he could repay his debt. And I thought it was kind of beautiful.
Yeah, I think so, too.
And then it shows...
And then the narrator cuts in again.
A narrator cuts in, and he says something about... maybe we can unite his soul with his body.
Well, basically he says, Tien doesn't survive.
Yeah.
But we can keep his spirit alive by willing it to be alive. So then it like fades into a Tien with like a beard with Ong Bak behind him.
And then
it's just like, what's going on? This is cool.
And I know that's like cliffhanger, and that's like writing 101 bad.
But also,
but I was
what
a
else were they going
sucker
to
for
do?
it.
They had to do a cliffhanger because they
Right.
couldn't make one movie. They had to make half of a movie.
But I'm saying, as bad as it may or may not have been, I was kind of like, that's cool, and I
loved
like it.
I loved it.
And then seeing the Ong Bak statue, I'm like, I feel like this is going to kind of, in a really poetic and interesting way, tie into the first movie.
Uh-huh.
And I think, I mean, our loyal listeners will probably hear me. As long as Ong Bak 3 sticks to landing, this is going to be my prime example for how a prequel should work. Because create a world, go live in the world, go way back, do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Don't connect every little thing.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? Ong Bak 3 could be a disaster.
I know. It could.
What a crazy movie.
Yeah.
What a crazy movie. We had a bit of a shorter episode today, but I mean a thorough one. Let's see what day this comes out, though. Do you have anything else to say about the movie?
I don't think so. It's just so cool and people need to see it.
Yeah. So it is July. And this month on Patreon, we are covering the Clone Wars movie. So check that out. That's going to be wild. And then next month, we'll be covering The Protector. Yeah, but next week, it is Ong Bak 3. And then we'll be jumping right back into Star Wars, the last 5 movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess he's slicing his back, but he just looks like he's in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Maybe he is wearing armor.
I think he is.
Okay.
So now that we're here at the end, should I skip to the end to see if any animals were harmed in the making of this movie?
If you would like to, but I think we can do that off mic.
Well, it'll take me a second.
Okay.
Even if you want to be done, I'll do it. Oh, it is in a different language. That could make it tough.
Yeah, but maybe there's a discernible logo. You know?
Yeah. Actually, it's translated, so. Oh, but the thing that might be it is not translated. But seriously, watch this movie, folks. It's so good. Oh, I'm not seeing the logo. Yeah, I think it's possible that animals were harmed in the making of this.
Okay.
But I don't know.
You could probably look it up.
All right. See ya.
Bye.